How's everyone? Good? Good? Amazing. So we have a really brilliant lineup today for this panel. We are going to be exploring some really interesting topics. So first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Claire Anderson, Games Industry Consultant for Ubisoft and also University of Edinburgh. Please can we give her a warm welcome. We're also joined by Marcia Brophy, a global mental health and innovation specialist at UNICEF. We're also joined online by Ari Kagan. Where's Ari? Oh, okay, when he comes back. and last but not least, we're joined by Lorraine Ni Anrakan, who is a global campaigns and programs lead at Spotify. So let's get straight into it. I'm really excited for us to delve into the different collaborative and innovative ways that each of you have been kind of working together on different projects. And there's a lot of crossover between what you guys do as well. So starting with you, Claire, can you tell us a bit about your work with Ubisoft, in particular Assassin's Creed? And perhaps those who don't know what Assassin's Creed is, tell us what it is.
Yes, so Assassin's Creed is, it's a history-themed franchise, but a history-themed franchise that is, I think, now 13 titles strong. The first one came out in 2007 and deals with different time periods and settings, but all inspired in some way or in some sort of different historical setting. So I worked with Assassin's Creed Mirage or Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is the latest installment in the franchise, which is set in 9th century Baghdad. And I'm a historian of medieval Islamic architecture and art, and so I was helping the in-house historians at Assassin's Creed with understanding the art, the architecture, and the social history of the period, and working on the in-game educational feature in Mirage.
Mm-hmm. And this is super exciting and really incredible, like especially as someone whose background is academia. So we don't often consider the merging of academia with the gaming industry, and the fact that there are historians behind the scenes putting this all together, making sure everything's historically accurate, representative, etc. So how did this collaboration come about?
Well, it came about because I have an interest in video game engines as a tool for visualizing fragmented, decontextualized architecture and history, and had started using video game engines as that kind of a tool for research for my first book. But I was really inspired to go back to that kind of work during lockdown, actually. My son, who had first told me that I should check out Assassin's Creed when he was an adolescent, in lockdown, he put the games into my hands and said, okay, Mom, now you have to try these now. I thought that I would have to retire before I had time to play Assassin's Creed. But when he put those games into my hands and helped me see what they were doing, and showed me the possibility, the educational possibility around video games, it really resonated with what I'm trying to do as an academic, which is to make academic knowledge about Islamic civilization, medieval Islamic art and history, and more inclusive stories about global history, make those accessible outside the academy, because my sense is that this historical knowledge that is available to a relatively privileged few in places like University of Edinburgh and the other few institutions who have historians of Islamic art and architecture on staff, that knowledge is not getting out into the wider public, and you know, there are issues of representation, inclusion, and diversity that I felt like this knowledge needs to be getting out of the academy. So is there something that we can do using video games and other immersive technologies to help make this knowledge available to wider audiences, including young people.
Absolutely, and we just saw an example of that work in action, and the video's finished now, but could you just explain to our audience what they just saw on the screen?
Yes, so if you saw the gameplay video, what you were seeing is the in-game educational features. So when you're playing the game, there are these historical markers throughout the world that you can interact with, and when you interact with those, it pulls up information that's called the History of Baghdad Codex, which was co-written, co-reviewed, co-developed between myself and my team and the in-house historians at Assassin's Creed. And it basically presents historical information illustrated with actual museum artifacts and manuscripts from the time period, from medieval Islamic civilization, so that players who want to know more about what might be an unfamiliar history are able to access authentic objects, museum works of art, learn more about those, hopefully go to the museums and be able to see objects like those for themselves, and really just learn as much as they want to learn about those histories and that time and place.
Yeah, and it's a great entry point, especially, as we were speaking earlier, as someone who's not a gamer, but I don't like to do the missions, I like to explore, right? So having that kind of element in the game also is really nice, because it's like, okay, you can take your head out of a book for a moment and learn in a different way, which is really amazing. So yeah, kind of connecting up all those points, you're taking knowledge outside of academia and making it way more accessible to people. Thank you. And over to you, lovely ladies. So Marsha, you have a background in child psychology, and Lorraine, you have a background in international development. Together, you united UNICEF and Spotify to create Our Minds Matter, a destination on Spotify, including the On My Mind podcast that helps young people to learn about and to navigate mental health. So here's a landing page here for you to see. I wanted to start with you, Lorraine. Would you mind telling us a bit about what is Our Minds Matter?
Yes, so Our Minds Matter, as you said, is our partnership with UNICEF, and this is, it's probably our biggest social impact program that we have at Spotify. For context, our whole social impact strategy at Spotify now is based around youth well-being, in part recognizing that we know that young people are coming to our platform and engaging with audio to support their well-being. One piece of research we did, I think, actually indicated that among Gen Z as well as millennials, almost 70% see audio as a mental health resource. So it's something we're working on broadly. And then our partnership with UNICEF, we partnered over 5 years to support the mental health and well-being of young people globally, including those impacted by a crisis. And so what you can see here is a snippet of that platform on Spotify, which is our on-platform piece, and Marcia will speak more to all of the extensive programming that's happening on the ground globally. So in this destination, we've brought together we've created, which UNICEF are leading on, original content, evidence-based mental health resources, and our flagship podcast is called On My Mind. There's season 1 and season 2 is coming, potentially this week in some languages, not across the details. And there's what you can see there is Magnificent May, which is an audio comic book. So Marcia will speak more, as I said, to the details of that original evidence-based content. And on the Spotify side, we are curating existing podcast content on Spotify to sit alongside this. So carefully identifying existing mental health related or well-being podcasts that we know young people are already engaging with to sit alongside this, as well as wellness music, which is informed by the young people we're working with to support them to study, relax, focus, sleep, whatever it is that the young people where we're working with them are looking for in terms of support. as well as editorial music. So we've heard from the young people that this, like, whether it's pop, R&B, certain music really supports them to feel a sense of belonging or a connection to home. So everything we're doing is informed by young people, and we're building up over time this destination to support young people broadly. We started this partnership in response to the escalation of the war in Ukraine, and we're now scaling it globally. Hopefully everywhere, but our next stop is Latin America next month, which is very exciting. So, yeah, I think.
That's incredible. And you mentioned it will be coming out in different languages. So could you give us a glimpse? What kind of, what are the languages it's in currently?
So currently, as I mentioned, we started with focus on Ukraine. So we launched last year in Ukrainian, Polish, and English. So focused on supporting young people affected by that war, and how, and we will be shortly launching in Spanish and Portuguese in Latin America. Mm-hmm. And some of the ways that we've brought that content to young people, we have lots of tools on our platform, and we know how young people are engaging, so we can send them notifications in-app, whether they are in Ukraine, in Poland, or in other countries if they've, where young people have, of course, left Ukraine, and developed, media strategies so we can reach those young people where they are, whether it's like in busy bus stations in Poland. And so we've used lots of tools to engage young people in that region.
Wow. And is this one of the ways, that Spotify's utilising its global reach to have a big impact on young people across the world?
Yeah, so this is one example. As I mentioned, our strategy is broadly around youth well-being, and that is also because we believe that well-being is foundational to creating impact. So young people need to have good mental health. This program narrowly fits into that mental health pillar, and also to be safe and feel connected and part of a community and taking action. So there are other examples of programs and campaigns we have, such as our Play Your Part campaign, which supports young people globally to use their voice and vote in elections, which has been received really well. There will be another campaign actually in the UK in the next week or so, encouraging people to vote in the local elections, and we'll have a campaign later in the year around the general election. So we work across many different issue areas, including engaging people in major issues. There is a climate campaign we launched recently, but this partnership with UNICEF is one of the key ways that we're supporting well-being for youth listeners.
And are people kind of turning to audio for education?
Yeah, so we know that young people are engaging with podcasts to go deeper on topics they're interested in. We know they're learning about communities they wouldn't otherwise have learned about. And it's a way to go beyond, if a young person sees a headline on social media that a politician stole some money, for example, what they will learn in a podcast is why that happened, how that happened. And we can see that young people are curating their own curriculums on Spotify, and they have all of these resources to support them. They're coming to, they're listening to podcasts to better understand issues. We actually, another piece of research demonstrated that they were actually coming to Spotify to learn more about complex questions before they would then have a discussion with their family members about this. So it's really supporting them in that. And this doesn't mean that they're not then having those complex conversations with their friends and family, but that it's a powerful supplement that's becoming more and more popular with young people.
This is really important and, thorough work. You're kind of filling in that stopgap for young people in their research, giving them a platform that they can trust, where they can learn, and without it being kind of too arduous. It's right there on a platform that they likely are already using or familiar with. And Spotify is free, isn't it, for people?
Yeah, it is. There are, I think, over 602 million people using Spotify. So it's massive. And yes, it's available free. There are 230-something-ish subscribers. So there are a lot of subscribers, but it is free to use Spotify, which is important for our partnership with young people. And Marcia will share more context, but it was important for us that young people can access this content for free, and that we're reaching them everywhere.
That's it. Thank you. Marcia, from a UNICEF point of view, could you tell us a bit about the mental health side of programming, all the amazing work that you two have done together?
Yeah, thank you so much. Can I just pick up on the last point that Lorraine was making? So not only is it free for young people globally once we expand and scale to many different regions and countries and languages, but it's also advert free for our podcast, because it was incredibly important for us as partners in this, as organisations, to ensure that young people could listen to the content and not be distracted to think about anything else when they're searching for mental health support and resources. So I just wanted to kind of add that batting.
That's brilliant. Really good to hear that.
Yeah, from a mental health perspective, it's really exciting global partnership that we have with Spotify. It gave us such a unique opportunity to quite literally get into the ears of young people in many of the most hard, difficult contexts that they're living in. And as Lorraine already mentioned, we launched to work and support young people who are directly impacted by the Ukraine war. So that meant not only Ukrainians in Ukraine, but also those who had fled home in the bordering countries, but also young people in those bordering countries who are continuing to be fearful of what the future holds for them and the countries that surround them. The way we set up the actual content for the various podcasts that we have on the destination is that for UNICEF, we always start from a point of looking at evidence-based and evidence-informed content. And we start with also working with whoever the community is that we're trying to target. So this was around young people aged 16 to 25. We immediately set up through our youth advocacy networks a youth co-creator group who are Ukrainian and Polish. And they held our hands right from the beginning, looking at all of the content that we already had written, helping us develop them into scripts, reviewing then the final audio files before we finalise them as a podcast series, choosing the voice actors, the music behind the podcasts, and even to the pace and the intonation of the voice actors using this. We gave some of them the opportunity as well to become the voice. At that point, for the Ukrainian youth going through incredibly difficult times, they didn't want to take that opportunity, but it gave them a sense of empowerment and motivation of what they could come back to in the future and do for themselves. So yeah, I think that's kind of the content there for now.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Also, something that's always kind of interested me is how you bring people on that journey of mental health without kind of dredging up trauma or re-traumatizing people, especially as you say, people that are living in active war zones at the moment, and then kind of working with them to create a resource to support kind of their own communities and their age mates. So I wanted to ask you, how does one engage young people on mental health issues without kind of inflicting more harm?
Yeah, thank you. So what we have are a set of principles or standards that we would use, whether it's face-to-face programming on mental health, as well as when we were developing the podcast and working with the youth co-creators. So the first area is around talking to them about what content we're going to be looking at, understanding what sensitive nature that might be, and providing them with the resources and support in that group session when we're co-creating, but also outside of the sessions. So what networks of support, what referral mechanisms are in place? That could be informal support or formal support in terms of professional help. So we always, as myself, would be part of the facilitated groups with the young people when we're co-creating as a mental health specialist, alongside then our youth facilitators. We would also make sure that they were provided with counselling services in Ukraine or whatever country or community that they're living in, so that they could access that for free outside of the sessions that we were doing. But we also have, I guess, like a loop-back mechanism that by building a sense of safety and community in that youth co-creation session, they know that they have informal support with each other. They realise that they're not going through things alone and in isolation, that they're not different to the other young people in their community, and that provides a sense of support and a sense of well-being for them, that they know that they're not the only person struggling with a particular issue. What we also do is ensure that we're using language that's age appropriate, that's culturally appropriate, which is also continues to be actively informed by that youth group. We try our best to make sure as experts that it's age and culturally appropriate and that it's translated really well, using a professional team of linguists, interpreters and translators, which are all subtly different roles I've learned through this partnership, and all incredibly important. But really genuinely asking the young people, does that resonate with you? That word or that phrase or that exercise or activity, is that genuinely going to help you get to sleep at night or feel rested in the morning when you've had bad sleep? So we try to kind of layer that in as well.
This is such considerate and just really beautiful work that you guys are doing. I mean, amongst all three of you even, that co-curation is really, really important for authenticity, to make sure that you're actually creating a social impact there. And it's really wonderful to see an organisation working meaningfully and engaging meaningfully with young people, because something we spoke about earlier, when we're watching TV shows, sometimes we can tell when the writer might not be from said community, especially when they're writing about, Gen Z, because it's full of every stereotypical trope possible. And this is one of the ways that, you guys bypass that, but also create a community within itself. And as you say, kind of that circle back. This is really beautiful work. Thank you too. Do we have Ari? No? That's a shame. Without Ari, but I'm going to give you his bio so that at least you can get to know a bit about the work that he does. Is it possible to get up his video, please?
Hey, Chris. This is Cassandra. She's interviewing for social media manager today.
Okay.
Why don't you, Cassandra, have a seat, please.
People really aren't into oil. I don't know if you've noticed this in the scene.
Is there any way we can make oil cool? Maybe
Like the Tide Pod Challenge or something like that with oil.
That went
We
viral.
were thinking of selling little oil packets in gas stations. The starting salary is $650,000 a year for social media manager.
That sounds decent. I could do that.
It's needed.
Where did you say you were from again? Just
France.
what?
France, you know?
Sorry, what is it?
France.
From the rhyme. I see London.
I see London, I see France.
Yeah.
So, Ari Kagan is the creator of Cobalt Energy, as you just see, which is a short-form comedy series from executive producer Adam McKay. He's the head of production at Gymnasium, a production company behind multiple viral short-form series. So one of the kind of aims of this work, from having spoken to Ari, is to really shine a light on global issues of like sustainability and environmental issues in short form that's also accessible to young people. These videos live online on social media such as TikToks. Kind of one thing that's, uniting all of the panelists here is that they are going to the audience rather than expecting an audience kind of to come to them in a place that might be less familiar and less kind of part of their daily routine. So it's a shame Ari wasn't here, but I'm glad at least you got to see a clip of his work. So please go online and have a look for more. So I'll just wrap up with a few more questions for our panelists. So these are open to all of you. So from kind of gaming to podcasting, comedy to TikTok, each of you are obviously going direct to your audiences. So could you share kind of what are the opportunities that this presents in terms of creating authentic engagement and also impact? I'll let you volunteer yourselves. Who wants to go first?
I can go first if you
Thank
want.
you.
The opportunity for us, I think, is an obvious one if you're working in mental health or social services. Globally, no matter what country you pick, there are not enough physical mental health services on offer in local communities. There are not enough mental health or social service support staff for young people or children or adolescents or their caregivers. And so for us, moving directly into their ears, it provides us with such an expanse and a level of scalability that direct face-to-face service provision will never get to. Mental health is an under-resourced, underfunded sector globally. And then if we think about emergency contexts or conflict settings, that's going to be even lower down the list of priorities, understandably, if you're talking about an emergency or humanitarian setting. But the real sparkly winning factor in this is that young people are already using Spotify platform. They're already seeking information to educate and empower themselves. We can supplement that by giving them additional resources, and it's non-stigmatizing. Nobody will know that they're accessing that information, struggling with depression or anxiety, etc. Whereas even if they were lucky enough to have a physical service in their neighborhood and they had the guts to go and access it, they still probably would be afraid that somebody in their neighborhood would see them and they'd be stigmatized by accessing mental health support. So this really genuinely opens it up in terms of limitless options and opportunities for us to support young people better.
Yeah, that's it. And even, I know with the NHS waiting list, you could be waiting for half a year to get seen by someone. So having that immediate access to these resources will hopefully, encourage young people to go on that journey and not kind of be deterred at the first step where, you have to wait half a year to be able to speak to someone. So yeah, really important life-saving work that you guys are doing for sure.
I can follow on the podcast theme. So podcasting broadly, I just think is a huge opportunity to engage young people where they are authentically. We know that Gen Z as a generation are more engaged with digital audio than ever and are the fastest growing cohort. For us, they're streaming more music than they're engaging with, any other form of media. And I'm speaking to audio kind of more broadly now, but when asked, young people were more than twice as likely to say that in terms of the biggest cultural event of the last year, that it was a song or a podcast or an album they loved and streamed repeatedly more than any major news event that might have been happening. So just demonstrating the power of that and to meet young people where they are. And they also just trust podcasting and are turning there, as I mentioned earlier, to engage more deeply, but also with such a diversity of voices and perspectives, which leads them to trust podcasting more. And 2/3 actually of Gen Z in the UK believed that podcasting was more trustworthy than other forms of media for that reason, because of that representation and diverse voices. So, in whether or not you're already working with podcasts or looking to extend a conversation, it's such a powerful way to engage people and to really build trust, I think.
Yeah, and having a trusted resource today, right now, where there's so many different outlets, can feel like almost a rarity, especially for young people, because you can become easily disillusioned with the way that news media might be presenting certain things and, trying to unpack biases. You have to do a lot of due diligence to kind of figure out what sources you can trust. So again, having that kind of step in where people might feel disillusioned and might just switch off. Instead, they can come to an app that they likely already have and to find out more information there. Thank you. What about you, Claire?
I think for me, because games are now one of the ways that so many people are engaging with the past and engaging with history, not everyone might want to sit down and read my academic monograph on history, but people of all ages enjoy playing games, and so if these games can be a vehicle to tell authentic stories or inclusive stories about history that allow young people to feel like their histories are seen, or that they see something of themselves in these histories and in these types of entertainment that they're consuming, and it gives them an interest and a spark that makes them want to learn more. I think that's really what I see as extremely powerful about games as a platform.
And how beautiful that your work gets to live on in different ways, and that it gets to reach even more people.
Yeah, that's. I've estimated that I've taught maybe 3,000 university students over the course of my 20-year career about this historical information. Yeah. And I think in the first year that Assassin's Creed Mirage was released, millions of people played that game and were able to access that information. So the scale is just incredible, really.
And the story behind it, if you don't mind me sharing or asking you, is really inspiring, the way that you shoot your shot, or you shot your shot, in order to even, make sure that this representation was included in the game itself. Would you mind telling us how you connected with Ubisoft?
Yes. So I did my research, and it took me quite a while to work up the courage, actually, but I did end up reaching out to Ubisoft and offering my help as an expert in medieval Islamic art and architecture, because some of you may know the Valhalla game about Viking Age Britain that was the previous Assassin's Creed. Well, there are non-player characters in Valhalla who are Islamic characters from the 9th century Islamic empire, and my son told me about those characters, and that made me think, I should reach out to Ubisoft and offer my help to them, because there's frankly not that many of us who work on medieval Islamic art and history and Viking medieval Islamic cultural interchange, which I have done in my research, and who also have some experience with game development tools. So I had to kind of gather up my courage before I approached them, but then I reached out to them on LinkedIn, actually. So the power of social media as a way to connect people, I think, is important in that story too. And luckily, they didn't dismiss me out of hand as a crazy person reaching out to them, but they did, consider what I had to say and came back to me.
Yeah, and the importance of networking. So make sure you all get each other's LinkedIns before you leave. Just to wrap up, I wanted to ask each of you've all honestly amazing work, really, really incredible work. And your audiences, you may never get to meet them all, but there are millions of people around the world that are benefiting from everything that you guys have done. So I wanted to ask you, could you share what some of the most rewarding part of all of this work has been for you?
Shall I go? This is quite recent in my mind, but last month I was at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco presenting my work on Assassin's Creed, and after my talk I had the chance to talk with an amazing group of young people who wanted to come and discuss what that had meant to them, what this work had meant to them. And it was extremely moving to talk to these people. I've had students thank me for doing the work, because they said that it was a nice change for them to see their culture represented as something other than target practice for first-person shooters, or as other than terrorists, and that they felt represented and valued in a way from just seeing themselves included in that game.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you.
I can go. On a personal level, I'm just excited every day about this. But I have a background and spent most of my career working in child rights, and so to be now working for how to identify music, media, podcast industry, and to still be working on these issues, and for a company like Spotify to be so behind supporting young people in this way is just really exciting. And I think the most rewarding thing is actually just seeing everyone's excitement. I think particularly our colleagues and employees from the region, when they heard that this was how Spotify was responding, in that instance, responding to the escalation of the war in Ukraine. Obviously, it's a global program, but how much it's valued, it really, it's really rewarding.
And it's wonderful to see a really kind of thought out, detailed work of corporate social responsibility that's beyond just kind of tokenistic or tick boxing. And that's clear from just, the amount of depth that you have gone into to put this together. Thank you.
I'll be really brief. I know that you're hovering.
I am hovering. I'm sorry. I'm hovering with intent. You guys have all been absolutely brilliant. Sophia, Claire, Lorraine, Marcia, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we didn't get Ari up, but you were all fabulous. So thank you so much for being part of it. Thank you.